皆様、お待たせいたしました。ただいまより、国際交流基金、基金賞記念グナワン・モハマド氏による、講演会を開催いたします。私は本日司会を務めさせていただきます広報部長の高橋と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。まずはじめに国際交流基金理事の佐藤から一言ご挨拶を申し上げさせていただきます。佐藤理事、お願いします。
皆様こんばんは。国際交流基金理事の佐藤由里でございます。本日は2022年度国際交流基金賞受賞記念イベントにお越しいただきまして誠にありがとうございます。私ども国際交流基金は国際相互理解の増進や国際友好親善の促進に特に顕著な貢献があった個人団体に対して国際交流基金賞を授与してまいりました。本年国際交流基金は設立50周年を迎えまして、昨日19日50周年記念と銘打って本賞授賞式を執り行いました。この記念すべき年の受賞者は、本日ご登壇いただくインドネシアのグナワン・モハマド様、俳優舞台芸術家であるカナダのロベール・ルパージュ様、日本語教育分野で活動を続けてこられました韓国の社団法人韓日協会様でいらっしゃいます。グナワン・モハマド様はジャーナリスト、市民活動家、詩人、劇作家として多方面に活躍されてきたインドネシアを代表する知識人でいらっしゃいます。日本との関係では1983年に国際交流基金の文化人招聘事業の一環として初めて日本にいらっしゃいました。そして1997年にはこの国際文化会館と私どもとの共催プログラムアジアリーダーズフェローで来日されて2ヶ月ここに滞在され、それ以来さまざまな分野での日本との知的交流を深めていらっしゃいます。私自身長くインドネシアに関わってまいりました身としてですね、本日このような形でグナワンさんをお招きできたことを本当に嬉しく光栄に感じております。それでは皆様本日どうぞお楽しみください。ありがとうございます。
本日の講演会は、理事の佐藤が、講演後のコメントおよび、質疑応答のモデレーターを務めさせていただきます。また本日は講演は英語で行います。お手元の、同時通訳機を、適宜ご利用いただければと思います。では佐藤理事、よろしくお願いします。
はい、改めまして本日モデレーターを務めます国際交流基金理事の佐藤由里でございます。まず私よりごく簡単にグナワン・モハマドさんについてご紹介をさせていただきます。グナワンさんは1941年にインドネシアの中部ジャワに生まれ、幼い時から詩、ポエムですねに大変親しまれ、で今回よく伺ったところによりますと、初めて自分のその書いたもの詩ですけれども、それが多くの人の目に触れた、つまり活字になったのは1958年高校生の時だったということです。でその後インドネシア大学に進まれましたが、3年時の時にベルギーに留学されて、で帰国されたのが1967年、ちょうどそのスカルノからスハルトへという時代の変わり目の時にベルギーに実はいて、で帰ってきてからもどんどんとそのいろいろな雑誌の創設編集に関わるわけですが、1971年30歳の時に、皆様ご承知の通り店舗 を立ち上げ創刊し編集に携わってこられたわけです。で店舗はスアルト政権下で2回発禁処分を受けておりますけれども、それに屈せず、復刊を果たして現在に至りますし、グナワンさんのそのリベラル民主主義多元主義の重視と、そういった姿勢はですね、時代を問わず一貫して、インドネシアの報道ジャーナリズムをリードしてきたというふうに言っていいと思います。こうした活動によってですね、スアルト時代の末期になりますが、97年にはハーバード大学のニーマン・フェロー・ルイ・ライオンズ賞、98年には国際報道自由賞、99年にはワールドプレスレビュー国際編集者賞などを次々と受賞をされております。それからもともと詩人でいらっしゃる詩とか演劇、あるいは和ヤンの創作といった分野でも非常に多方面に才能を発揮されてまして、インドネシアの文化をベースに寛容で多元性のある非常に自由な発想を重んじる文化芸術の普及を図る本格的なセンターでありますサリハラコミュニティの創設者としても知られております。本日の講演ではアイデンティティポリティクスに焦点を当てて、その源泉である差異ディファレンスですねの言説をテーマに、今日の社会における新たな文化の捉え方についてお話をいただきます。ご講演のタイトルは文化、カルチャー、そしてパラノイアです。それではグナワンさん、にマイクを渡したいと思います。どうぞよろしくご講演のほどお願いいたします。
Thank you so much. I cannot thank enough to Japan Foundation, and I'm very happy to have Ibu Sato-san to preside this session. For me, it's very nostalgic to be in this room because about 10 years or several years ago, I was here. I spent 6 months in this beautiful setting. The hotel is always modest, but the garden is incredibly beautiful, especially in the spring. I have made a lot of friends, even before that, with many Japanese, especially the artists and the NGOs. They help us in Indonesia to work for pro-democracy movements. Some of them may join the underground. So I'm very happy to be here again. And the news that I'm one of the recipients of the Japan Foundation Award of 2022 overwhelmed me. Apparently, it took much of my time to be overwhelmed. I spent 2 weeks to prepare myself for the trip to Japan. I took a PCR test, of course, rather annoying. Recovered my old thermal underwear for the October weather, bought a new jacket, attempted to make a double Windsor knot, etc. In fact, in short, it was a big production. To come to visit Japan again after more than 10 years gave me a tremendous thrill. Japan never stopped intriguing me. I think Japan intrigues me, or better, frustrates me because I do not speak nor read Japanese, and yet I find the echo of the words in Japanese writing constantly enticing, even in translation. Therefore, I always love to be close to it, while knowing how deep the rift is. Coming from Indonesia, I find the well-known Japanese cultural homogeneity both astonishing and unexplainable. Indonesia is famous for its diversity, of which I will speak later. But Japan, and there was a lot of problem with diversity. But Japan shows no obvious centrifugal anxiety. And I wonder why. Maybe Japan hides its inner conflict, which is not visible to me. Because Japan seems to be exempted from what is going on in the world today, which is what I call culture war. The word war may be hyperbolic, an exaggeration of the notion of Kulturkampf in the German history of the 19th century. The Kampf, or the strife, took place when the state was drawn into confrontation with the Catholic Church on matters of educational policy. Today I'm using the word to describe events like the current Iranian upheaval, when there is a clash between two camps. In the upper floor are people holding strict Islamic values regarding women's behavior. In the lower parts of society are those who find themselves oppressed by religious precepts. The hijab, or the headscarf, is no longer a mere piece of cloth. It has become the center of the conflict, in which at least 3 young women were killed. What's happening is both horrific and inspiring. Like war, it's about periphery, life and death. What we are seeing today in the world and the war of cultures and the culture war is the rise of what I call purism. Purism is a drive against what is perceived as alien intrusion, a foreign intrusion in one's behavior and belief. Purism is an impulsion to purge the other from the self and prevent hybridity in the social. It is a kind of cultural paranoia where suspicion is everywhere. I remember The Crucible, played by Arthur Miller, which is, to me, an authentic narrative of fear and intolerance. One of the characters, Judge Haddonford, comes with threatening words. Let me read. This is a sharp time now, a precise time. We live no longer in the dusky afternoon when evil mixed itself with good and befuddled the world. Underlying this mindset is a rejection of ambiguity. It is purism par excellence. Oftentimes, the presence of religion heightens this feeling, as people are desperate for clear precept and powerful formulas. Increasingly, religion is no longer a private worship in silence. It has become more and more institutionalized. Finally, it transforms itself into and merges with the notion of culture. And culture, as one British poet writes, no culture can appear or develop except in relation to a religion. A religion brings with the eternal. Immediately, culture becomes its shadow. And people forget that culture is a continuous creative production. It's always new. It is production of the new, on and on. It is an undetermined process. But people tend to see culture as a constant coherence, as an entity. And it's not only because religion, but also because the past history of Asia, especially, history of colonialism. Different forms of colonization, European colonization in Asia was the most obvious, insisting to create taxonomy, division division of the population into different groups, in which culture, as a continuous process, was broken into different genera, each with its clear and distinct demarcation. The narrative of Indonesian diversity is a case in point. As you can see in the slide, Indonesian diversity consists of units called suku, S-U-K-U, which is roughly translated as subcultural group. So you see in the map, next to the map, there are pictures of men and women dressing in traditional, so-called traditional dress. Because each subculture group has its own myths and symbols, even languages. We have slide number 2? Oh yeah. So you see, Indonesia is from the left to the right, and different colors indicates different kind of subculture groups. We don't call it ethnicity because we are from the same ethnic stock. Or what is ethnic stock? We don't know either. And so it's so diverse. But if you focus on it, analyze it carefully, you will find that the identity and life space of the sukus are not natural phenomena. It was constructed by Indonesian politics of taxonomy and mapping. It is a geography drawn by the state. It is like drawing a city from a tower. So you see Tokyo from the Tokyo Tower, and in which, as a matter of practicality, it simplifies the intricacy of the real world. Let's look at Java, for example. Oh, this is Sumatra. They have different linguistic and subcultural groups. And there's one island with three or five, four? How many provinces are there? 5 provinces. But the map is really arbitrary. It's not, it doesn't grow from natural or historical growth. Like when the Dutch colonial system defines Indonesian population in 3 ethnic groups, Europeans, Oriental, foreign Orientals, and natives. They're all confusing and arbitrary. It's a way of what the nationals roughly called divide et impera, divide and rule. Because when you put people in the taxonomy and institutionalize the difference, you can control it very easily. You can channel your desire and plan, apply the plan with no real care of the complexity of things. That's why they can control it by dividing and ruling, by creating a taxonomy of people, which is really a false idea. I share what Edward Said, the famous writer, in his Culture and Imperialism says. Imperialism consolidated the mixture of cultures and identities on a global scale. But its worst and most paradoxical gift was to allow people to believe that they were only, mainly, exclusively white or black or Western or Oriental. So imperialism makes me believe that I'm only Japanese or Indonesian, and you are merely black. You can never change. You are destined to stay that way. And that's by producing this kind of image, you can be manipulated. Of course, the old imperialism disappears as a brute political force, but its discourse on difference has re-emerged in the new forms of control. Difference has become an institutionalized assortment. Religious doctrines and secular interest encourage the current human division by promoting the so-called identity politics. What I see is a widespread politics of paranoia, a serious threat to what humankind has in common. The challenge of our time is to undo all this by looking more at the creative impulse of culture and not its identity. Thank you.
グナワンさんありがとうございました。グナワンさんらしい非常にスケールの大きな、世界の今現在起きていることを見渡すようなお話だったと思います。それでは時間がもう近づいてまいりましてお集まりの皆様方から非常に多様なご質問を活発にいただきまして大変いい時間になったと思います。グナワンさんももう本当にいろいろな質問に答えていただき、そして私たちグナワン節をですね堪能できたかなと、もう一貫して変わらないグナワンさんの信念を感じることができたのかなというふうに思います。グナワンさん本当にこの度は国際交流基金賞、そして十数年ぶりの来日、もう本当に嬉しい機会を私たちに与えていただきまして、心からの感謝を込めて皆様グナワンさんに盛大な拍手をお願いいたします。
Thank you for being with me tonight, and thank you for Ota-san, Sato-san, for being wonderful and friendly chairperson. And let's enjoy October weather, which is too cold for me.
ありがとうございました。